Thought I'd take a quick video because I just finished lapping these. These are Scotch dual hones. I have been trying to get my hands on these suckers for about a month now, and I finally got them. And even though my back is kind of out, I couldn't wait to lap the things, so I ate some pills and I lapped them just now. The backing on these are both dalmore, which is a mid-range stone that's not that fast, but extremely beautiful stones. They might be sandstone of some sort. And the tops of these, this is white tam shanter. This is usually what silversmiths use, where you see them in the French fry format that they use to smooth out the joins in jewelry to get a nice continuous effect. And this one is fine tam shanter for razors, scalpels, or very fine knives. I've had tam shanter that looks like this before, but it's often been finger stones, and it was labeled as snake stone. Tam shanters tend to be upper mid-range stones. Very fine stones if you're using them for knives, like very, very fine. Finer than you probably need for a knife, but most knives anyway. But the finest tam shanter you could probably shave off of. It's like the beginning of shavable. This might be well into that actually, but one like this would usually be sort of a shave that you can actually have and not be cursing while you're shaving with a straight razor. There's another tam shanter that looks like this one that's darker gray, which is about a step below this in terms of fineness. And dual hones also come sometimes with a stone called water of air, which is finer than tam shanters. So if you have a stone like a dalmore and the other stones in the grouping of the Scotch hones, you pretty much have a no slurry honing solution for a straight razor, which is pretty cool. You pretty much have, because they pretty much link in very well in terms of the grits they are, so you would probably have no problem going from one to another. They're not the fastest stones in the world, but they're also not very damaging. They don't leave deep scratches. They don't leave a lot of nasty stuff you have to delete from grit to grit. They cut gently, but they do cut. And that's about all I have to say about. Oh, when you're lapping these, if you have, especially considering these are costly things, when you have these with labels, you got to be really careful. You really should seal these labels, because when you're lapping one of these sort of stones and you get these labels wet, for some reason they're really, really intolerant to getting wet. They will turn to paste. So be mindful of that, because with old rare stones you tend to pay a premium for having boxes or labels, and you could lose your label down the drain with one of these if you let it get too wet. Apart from that, I don't really have much else to say. They're not particularly hard, but they're not the most pleasant hones in the world to lap either. There's something about them. When tam shanters have a problem, they usually don't have any visible grain, but every once in a while they'll have the little squiggly line like a J-knot will, and they'll start spitting up big shallow chips of material that get all over the place and start, either if you're honing, it'll screw a blade up, or if you're lapping it, it'll come out and it'll scratch the hell out of your stone. This one had a bit of that in this corner where it had a shallow chip that was raising off the stone, and I had to dink it off and roll it down just to get it out of the way. And then I put some water thin CA glue just to let the stone drink if there was any more fissure left, and I think I got it out of the way for good. But it was threatening to be a real problem because it was taking out little bits of collateral damage with it while it was there. And That's about it. They're not particularly hard. Bit of a pain in the ass to lap, though. You can have problems like that. And if you're lapping on wet dry sandpaper, for whatever reason, the slurry off of these things will rip the abrasive right off the substrate sometimes. I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if it's the muddiness of the slurry, but sandpaper really acts up sometimes with Tam O'Shanters. Rare stones. And here's it's a cop car. Here's a different one, a smaller one that I have. Different backing. White tan. Anyway. Really cool stones. Hard to get, but if you can get it, and you can afford one, and you like stones that are sort of mid-range, upper mid-range, and natural, I do recommend.